Well, the first problem we have is that the system's completely overwhelmed. I mean, you've got so many tens of thousands of people crossing the channel that the Home Office can't cope. And so you end up with it getting worse and worse because you're in 420 days, I think, before they get a decision, which means in which time they start court cases, they recruit lawyers, they start families. It becomes impossible to get rid of them. It's a classical problem that the longer you take, the worse the problem gets. The first thing we can do about it is to face up to the fact that in the last year, we've gone from almost no Albanian migrants to 12,000. Now, I say migrants, not asylum seekers, because Albania is a safe country. Albania actually has lost fewer cases in the European Court of Human Rights in the last 5 years than we have, or than France has. It's a perfectly safe country from the point of view of being an asylum seeker. You really can't claim asylum coming from there. Sweden, you were just talking about Sweden. I mean, in many ways, I'm sort of tempted to move to Sweden. It's so much more sensible than we are. But the Swedes basically take no asylum seekers from Albania because they say it's a safe country. Our law, for some reason, doesn't allow us to do that. So just remember that point for a second. Our law doesn't allow us just to say, you've got off the dinghy on Dover Beach. Your next stop is Stansted Airport, which is almost how it should be. The second thing they do is they claim to have been trafficked, that they are modern slaves. You know, we had this modern slavery legislation go through, well-intentioned legislation, but they claim they're trafficked. Now, look, let's apply a common sense test. If you have been trafficked, surely, and it's involuntary, surely the thing you want to do is to go straight back home, isn't it? It's not to sit in Manston or in a hotel in my constituency for years while we sort out what's happened to you. You want to go back home. And again, the legislation ought to allow that, and it doesn't. And it seems to me that we need to pass through the House of Commons a very short piece of legislation, which doesn't say we're going to take people's asylum rights away, because we've been giving those for hundreds of years. We say if people come from a safe country, they go straight back to that safe country, not back to France or to Germany or wherever they've been en route, back to the originating country. And
do you think that would get through the House of Commons, David? I know it's a simple change. It sounds like a pragmatic change. Other countries are doing it. Would you get it through the House of Commons?
Yeah, I think we would. I mean, I've been writing to colleagues, you know about this because I've been writing to everybody about it. But I think this, look, bear in mind, look, I'm Mr. Asylum. I'm Mr. Rule of Law. I drive Philip mad as the wing of the Davis family that's always in favour of people's liberties and so on. But the truth is, I don't want the system destroyed by abuse, you know. So if I'll vote for it, or any Tory will vote for it. This ought to unify the Tory party for a start. You know, bring us all behind one thing. Now, then your next question is, well, the Liberals will vote against it. I'm sure about that. But the Labour Party wants to get elected next time. And I can remember when I was Shadow Home Secretary, facing off against David Blunkett and Charles Clarke and John Reid, all trying to be very tough on migration. The idea that they would vote against a bill designed actually to make the migration system work properly seems to me to be implausible. You know, I think they're going to find themselves in a very difficult position. So I think it's doable. But the other key aspect of this is how we do it. Now, again, normally I'm very, very antagonistic to emergency legislation. You may remember, both of you, that when on March the 23rd of 2020, we had the emergency COVID legislation, I was basically the only person to argue against it because I think, you know, the House of Commons should take time over it. But I think actually we should give the government a few weeks to think it through. But I think it can reasonably go through in a few weeks.
Excellent.
It is an emergency. 12,000 people arising and abusing our system is an emergency. 12,000 people, by the way.
Well, we totally agree with you there, David Davis. That is something that needs to be looked at, and it's something that our viewers want a solution. You put one forward, and it is for politicians to take it forward. So, David Davis, thank you very much indeed for joining us.